Networking is meeting as many people in a market area, mapping it out in your head and understanding where the connections lie, who knows who, what do they know. You just go out there, you meet people, you talk, ideas come through this, and you follow those ideas to a natural conclusion, and you end up somewhere you couldn't have possibly understood you would be beforehand.
Hi, Lewis. Fantastic to have you on the Blue Light Leavers podcast, mate. Thanks ever so much. I'll try that again. Thanks ever so much for joining us. And obviously, you know, I've known each other for a little while, and both on a professional basis and as a result of Blue Light Leavers as well. So really grateful for you being here today.
Pleasure to be on, Andy. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, mate. So would you tell us a little bit more about you and your background? What's your current role and your background, please?
Sure. So my current role is a consultant at Investigo Public Sector. I cover recruitment in the form of contingent labour, and I provide services for public sector with a focus on law enforcement, working with county police forces and then national bodies that cover law enforcement like the Home Office and the National Crime Agency. So I find people for these organisations to work on an interim basis. And generally, I'll try and find people for projects of work, programs of work, to work in a delivery capacity, maybe within change management, project support, or in a strategic advisory capacity.
Amazing. And would you tell us a little bit more about Investigo as well?
Investigo started a number of years ago, I think about 15 years ago now, as an accountancy and finance recruitment brand. It expanded rapidly into private sector change transformation. The public sector arm was set up by my director, Mike Thornton, around 10 years ago. Started with procurement, expanded that into tech, and also now change transformation as of a number of years ago. We have been focusing traditionally on central government, but as of the last 3 years, I suppose now, since the arrival of Stuart Saxon, my associate director, and then a number of other people come from Reed, working with police accounts. We have combined a number of years of law enforcement expertise, and we are able to solve the needs of the market. I come from background working with a company called Red Snapper, who are police specialists. I spent 2 years there, now roughly 2 years here, and I'm able to understand, I think, a bit better now from having worked around the police for some time, what the problems are and how I might be able to help.
Yeah, amazing. So what tend to be the main challenges then in terms of what your clients are looking for, and how do you fill that gap?
Well, in terms of finding people, I mean, I don't speak to many people across law enforcement at the moment who aren't desperate to hire more people. Money's always going to be a problem. I'll set that aside. Vetting, I would say, is a key issue for policing at the moment. There's a lot of work underway to develop a better system of vetting, a more rigorous system of vetting. One of the issues with a more rigorous system of vetting is that it will take more time, and that will make recruitment into the police harder still. So that's going to be one of the biggest issues over the course of the next 5-10 years for recruitment into the police. I talk to clients, though, generally about their problems, not just in terms of how many staff they need. And I find that you've had this big intake of officers in county police forces around 30 years ago now. So I think it was somewhere around 88 to 91, that big intake of officers. They are now all retiring or have retired. And this has left a massive gap in knowledge and expertise within police forces. So I see one particular issue at the moment is a lack of an ability to train younger people coming through the ranks, particularly detectives, who are left with massive amounts of work to do because the police are understaffed, and with a lack of guidance, a lack of a kind of holding hand from people above, lack of mentorship. So that's another big issue, I think, and I think that's leading to attrition rates going up in policing, people leaving at an earlier stage. There's also, I think, some work to be done around the employer value proposition for policing, now that the model's moved away from the 30 years with a nice pension afterwards. What I think people need to look at where people are going from the police to what else people are doing, and try and follow that as any private sector entity would do. But I don't want to go too far into solving the problem. So those are a
Yeah.
few that I've noted.
Yeah. And they're bang on, mate. They are absolutely bang on. I know, obviously, you know, we've spoken about exactly this, and for me, it's never been busier. You know,
Yeah.
it's insane. There are, you know, there are so many people looking to leave, unfortunately, which is a real shame. And you know, what I'm finding is that those with the greatest work ethic, the highest moral values, they're the ones that are tending to be moving on.
Yeah.
And we're losing some
that.
really, really good people.
I think a lot of people I speak to are burnt out, completely burnt out. And then they're completely unaware of their value to the outside world. I think a lot of people who've been in the force for a number of years, decades, there is a lot of value they can bring. There are many transferable skills. So I try to spend as much time as possible coaching people on that. Because there are many of my clients will not outside of policing, even across central government where I operate, they will look at police expertise. Certain things are only found within the police. So that dealing with the levels of risk that you deal with on a day-to-day basis within the police, you don't find that anywhere else. It's really sellable to other people and usable with other employers.
Yeah, without a doubt. So the type of clients that you deal with, Lewis, you've mentioned obviously some of the constabularies and some of the government organisations, but what are the types of roles that you tend to be looking for? And then what we'll talk about then is the skill set that's required to fill those gaps.
Sure. So generally, I'll be looking for programs and filling staff in those programs. So within county police forces, examples could be a new record management system, a tech implementation of that kind. For those, it makes sense to use contingent labour, interim resource, to fill the gaps where that are left by on the programme by people you can't take on from secondment. So generally, forces will take people, permanent staff, on secondment into these programs, but there'll still be a resource gap afterwards. So we kind of plug that gap. We also look at sort of wider change programs in central government, like in the NCA and the Home Office. I work with the NCA and the Home Office on the international front. So using policing expertise and project management expertise internationally. So I'll look at this is the kind of strategic advisory side of what I do. So I'll look at specialist policing expertise for those areas. A lot of it's surrounding organised crime, serious organised crime, and anything with a kind of high level of specialism to it, like professional standards, looking at maybe setting up vetting agencies, that kind of thing. I get a number of kind of ad hoc requests in that area, and then I also do some work in supporting operationally with law enforcement where I can. To be honest, it's not my specialism to find people in that area, but I'll get requests off clients, and we fill the void as much as we can.
So if people have the right career history and the right skill set and subject matter expertise, but they may not have actually been involved in project work before necessarily, or actually been a project lead or project manager within policing, what happens then? Is that a challenge, or is that an issue, or if people got the right skill set and right experience, are they employable still?
I think it's a lot easier to work in a project environment outside the police when you've already done it within the police. But I mentioned some transferable skills earlier. One, managing risk. That's the main thing in a project environment to do, is manage and control risk. The police do this on a day-to-day basis with risks that are far greater than any risks that will present themselves within any of the projects or programs that I'll be working with. This is a highly transferable skill. You've got the soft skills side, officers dealing with some of the most difficult members of the public that you'll find, and calming down situations, acting as a kind of calming presence. These are very valuable skills to have in a project environment. And the clients that I work with know that. They know that these are skill sets that tend to favour people working in project environment. What I would say is, if you have no experience in it previously, go and get a qualification, and you will be able to find a role within a project straight out of the police. You go and get the qualification, you will be able to find one. There are so many out there. There's so much to do. I think it'll be a lot easier generally for people to work within a similar market. It's always going to be easier to work alongside or around the police in a project environment, because you understand the environment you're working within.
Absolutely.
So I've said to people before, I think that's a good stepping stone if they want to go into other areas. Instead of moving into project management and another market all at once, move into project management, maybe working in a similar market, and then you can take the wider step away.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's a soft landing as well, isn't it? You understand the culture, the behaviors, the values, all that sort of stuff as well. And you straight away, you got that credibility because you can talk the language. So you're not coming in as a consultant, going in cold somewhere. It's, you know what you're talking about.
Exactly. And I think there's a wide gap between the police environment and then the consulting environment, where you find the big four management consultancies like PwC. I've worked with them in a police environment, and it's like chalk and cheese. It's just two different kinds of people. So when you have a big project, maybe there is a PwC involved or a big consultancy involved in a big change in the police, but they still need former officers to help move that change, because and to communicate that change to the people that are going to be impacted by it, because otherwise you've got someone who is nothing like you, who doesn't understand you, trying to communicate with someone they can't really communicate properly with.
Yeah, completely agree. And you mentioned qualifications as well. Is there anything, from a recruitment perspective, is there anything in particular that you would look for?
In the kind of people change side, which I'll mostly cover, Prince 2 is highly valued across central government. I would get the foundation and the practitioner. You can do it all in one. I did mine a few years ago. Highly valuable, I think. And then the APMG qualification is a nice add-on to that, because it's a different kind of understanding. I said the Prince 2 teaches you a methodology, and APMG teaches you about project management. So they go quite well together, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, absolutely. And that was exactly what I did Prince 2. So I was right at the tail end of my service. I was very fortunate to get involved in a big full force collaboration program at the specialist ops. And I had the sort of background that they were looking for. And it was actually a really nice career path to follow. And I did my Prince 2 as well, which gave you a little bit of the project methodology behind it, that waterfall methodology behind it as well, and then invested in some other courses and qualifications as well. So it's well worth doing.
I think the agile courses as well, I'd say, are extremely valuable, but they tend to be used more in a technical environment. So on technical implementations, you need the agile, of course. I think it's absolutely necessary to understand agile methodology, because that'd be really hitting the deep end if you didn't do the course before entering that kind of environment, I think, because it's so kind of ambiguous a lot of the time.
Yeah, and fast moving, obviously agile. Yeah. It's exactly that. So as the clues in the name. So having followed that, that exact career path through into project management, I then moved into change and transformation. And you and I have you very kindly asked me to, and a number of others that I knew as well, to attend like a roundtable sort of workshop type thing for change management transformation. For those that maybe don't quite understand what that is, how would you describe within that policing environment, so people can get that context of where their skill set might fit? How would you describe that change and transformation program type work?
Well, so business change, I would say, is when you have a project manager kind of controlling and managing a process to make sure that things happen on time, to make sure things happen within budget. A business change team will sit alongside. They will communicate what's happening to everyone. They will manage benefits, which makes sure that the program or the project is doing what it sets out to do, delivering what it sets out to do. And they will be the face of it for the people that are going to be the impacted by the change. So they're a crucial part of it. They're also probably the most ostracized part of a transformation a lot of the time, because the benefits of business change is very hard to quantify. It's highly qualitative. It's all about satisfaction rates from the people who've experienced the change. But they are an essential part of a successful transformation. It's even more essential the larger it gets, because it becomes more and more complex, and communication to everyone about what's happening is vital for the success of a change. And I think it's particularly important in the police environment. This is something we were talking about on the roundtable. When, again, I'll go back to the example of a consultancy like PwC working with the police. They need police understanding, market knowledge. They need to be able to talk shop with police officers in order to communicate properly what's happening. So you find a lot of the time in my market, former officers are hired as business change straight out the block, or without even qualifications sometimes, or even as subject matter experts or SMEs, just to make sure that the change that's happening is being communicated properly across the board.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think, and because there has been so much change within policing, and it happens very, very quickly, whether it's through IT or ways of working, reorgs, whatever it might be, we're so used to it, but we don't actually appreciate that we've got these skills, and we are, we're resilient, and we're able to help others through change as well. It's such a great and a very natural career path, which is why I moved from project management into business change, because it is that softer side. It uses the, those people skills and that ability to negotiate and influence and stakeholder management and all those sort of key skills that we pick up, whatever your length of service. They are, I hate the term, but they are so transferable in terms of understanding how to take and manage other people through change. And then if you maybe do a ProSci qualification, some change management qualification to back that up and support it. So you've got a methodology as well. And I did postgrad diploma in change management innovation to do exactly that. So, different theories around change management, and it just helps. It's such a fantastic career path. And then I did some IT qualifications, and was able to move into the IT environment. So again, which opens up other doors. So it's amazing how, this career path that starts off maybe as what you think is a relatively small sphere of project management, IMO project manager, can suddenly balloon into lots and lots of different opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, would you have been able to guess what you were doing today or previous to Blue Light Leavers, Andy, before you left the force?
No way. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea. Obviously I knew I was involved in a little bit of project work at the end, but I'd been operational. I was a sergeant for almost half my service, and I'd been operational for for 26, almost 27 years, and working shifts for almost that period of time as well. And so I really didn't have a clue what I was going to do. So to move along that career path, and then in being in charge of modern workplace technology at ASOS, and also some amazing roles. And working alongside Microsoft and Oracle and some of the big four that you've spoken about as well, and just unbelievable. I'm proper, ex-TSG, dogs, public order, firearms. I am about as crayon eating as you can get. Left school with left school with 4 U's, literally. Got sacked on my first day of my paper round. I am not the brightest, but my post-policing career has just been extraordinary, and there's no reason why so many other people can't follow the same path.
It's take it step by step, and you'll find that within a few years of going down this path, you're probably beyond your wildest imaginations in terms of where you thought you would be. If you commit to it, throw yourself into it, and you do all the right things. And that one thing we talked a lot about on the roundtable was the importance of networking to find the right work. Then you'll get there. You will get there.
Let's go into that a little bit deeper if we can, Lewis. That networking side. So from your experience, I know you are exceptionally good at this. From your experience, how would you, for those of us that are maybe a little bit suspicious about networking, how would you describe it, and how would you go about doing it?
Networking is meeting as many people in a market area as you possibly can, for me, and then mapping it out in your head and understanding where the connections lie, who knows who, what do they know, how does that link into what this other person knows. Building out a map in your head of the world that you're operating in through people, and understanding the connections that people have within that world. I mean, in practice, it's just getting out there and meeting as many people as you can, and understanding what they do and understanding them. I think it's just as important to understand who someone is as a person beyond their career as it is to understand their career when networking for career purposes, because that builds trusted relationships. And when you have trusted relationships with people, it just leads to things. It's hard to understand sometimes how you've kind of generated a bit of business or generated work for yourself through just doing this, but it does work. You just go out there, you meet people, you talk, ideas come through this, and you follow those ideas to a natural conclusion, and you end up somewhere you couldn't have possibly understood you would be beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've said before that my most recent consultancy role was as a result of meeting a guy from an organization 3 years ago and just grabbing a coffee with him when I was working at Network Rail, and we just grabbed a coffee nearby at Starbucks, and then 3 years later, we'd kept in touch, but 3 years later a role came up and he said, look, you're going to be a great fit, do you want to go for it? And it worked really, really well. So yeah, it is exactly that. But for the newbie networker, what would you say should be the first steps, and how would they go about doing it?
Well, LinkedIn is a tool, a professional networking tool. It's their sole purpose really is to enable you to network online, and it is extremely effective. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, then get one made. I often provide guidance to people on what looks good on a LinkedIn profile, what to look out for, and I tend to then, when I'm on LinkedIn, I will find people that I have heard of through conversations, and I'll just connect with them. That's my means of getting in touch with people that I've heard about. I'll drop them a message. Oh, I talked to this person the other day, mentioned your name. This is it's my main tool of exploring the web of the world that I'm operating within. It's extremely useful. Outside of that, for someone who's never done it before, just throw yourself into it. Don't be afraid, and understand that I can't remember the exact figure, so I don't want to be held to this, but something like 80% of work is created through referrals and networking. Only around 20% is found through applying through jobs online. So it's the way to do it, and you find all the most interesting, the best work through talking to people about what they need and what you could do together. You get to scope out and explore work together. And I would use recruiters like me. All we do is network. We get to be paid, spend all our time networking on behalf of you. That's what we do. When I talk to someone new who's looking for work, all I'm really trying to do is connect the dots between them and then other people in my network that might have use of their skill set, or might get on with them, or might have a piece of work that they want to get involved in, or might be interested in something that they've done before. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's as simple as I've just come off a call with someone who was talking about something very relevant to something someone else is doing. So just have a chat, set up a Teams call between them, and then who knows what will happen. Sometimes it leads to something, sometimes it doesn't. But often it will lead to some very interesting things happening.
Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely. But again, if we take it right to that so the macro level, if you like, of that initial contact, how would people go about doing that, and what would be, if someone wanted to connect with you for the first time, how would you go about doing it? Obviously, you're very open to it because you're aware of this. But if someone wants to connect with someone maybe they don't know or they haven't, heard of or anything like that, so but they think actually this is someone who's really interesting, what should that first message include, do you think?
I think in simple terms, in concise way, why you've approached them. If you have a good reason to approach someone, generally people will reply. I think particularly if there's something that you feel like could benefit them, then they'll probably be even more likely to reply. But generally, as long as there's a good reason for me connecting with someone, then it will be well received and will spark a conversation that may lead on into other things.
Yeah, and the worst thing that can happen is that it's either ignored or someone, or generally, if they'll either connect or they won't. It's as simple as that.
It's a bit like dating, Andy. It is a little bit like dating.
It's been a long time for me, mate.
I know. You're going to get rejected quite a lot of the time. You just have to accept that, and the more you do it, the easier it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that's not similar is it probably doesn't help if you have a drink. If you're approaching someone at a bar, having a drink probably helps give you a bit of confidence. I probably wouldn't do that on LinkedIn as much.
Yeah, I try and avoid. Yeah, definitely. So the type of organizations, the type of opportunities that you've got currently, obviously at the time of recording, you don't necessarily need to be too specific, but the type of roles that you are looking for and the type of skill set that you're looking for at the moment, what have you got on?
I'm looking for people working in business change, and working with county police forces. A lot of that's location specific. We're working with a number of forces in the kind of southwest region at the moment. Generally, one of the harder things to find in people is active vetting. I said this is a big issue before. Having the police specific vetting, which is the NPPV 3, ideally level 3. That's one of the main things I'll look out for in that regard. And then I'm looking for people to support on an issue with the Criminal Records Office at the moment. A workaround, their website's gone down. So I've been asked to support with some people to work a call center to deliver their services while they set their website back up. I mean, it's broad range in some ways because I'll deal with some critical requests like that. And then there's longer term strategic pieces that I'll look at, particularly with the Home Office international team, with the NCA. Be looking at people to deliver maybe a short, sharp advisory piece of work, or they might be involved in helping along with a program of work with those guys on the international front, or a lot of it's based in the UK as well. A wide range of things. Generally, the thread is change transformation, and then some strategic stuff utilizing your policing expertise, and some kind of everything and everything type, anything and everything type of work for police clients of mine who just need some support.
And where do people see these vacancies, Lewis? Where's the best place for people to go?
I'll post out on LinkedIn. I won't always post out when I have something on. Generally, the best way to find out would be to contact me. I'm around on LinkedIn. I'm always contactable. All my details, my email, my phone are on LinkedIn on my profile. But I will post out for a variety of things on LinkedIn, and I'll post in the Blue Light Leavers group. Generally, when I'm looking for people, I'll probably try and find people through referrals. So I'll ask people that I know who they know. But yeah, if I'm posting out, it'll be LinkedIn or Blue Light Leavers.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, mate. And in terms of lapsed vetting, where do people stand? So like somebody who's been out for a few years, but may have the right skill sets, so business change and project manager and things like that. Well, my vetting's lapsed. Where do we sit with that?
It's a shame at the moment. The time to get people vetted is a little longer than usual, so it complicates things a little. But you can get your vetting reinvigorated. Tends to be that you'd have to go through the process again, and it would take some time. Generally, I say to people, if you have a long enough lead in for work, I'd say about 3 months ideally to get someone vetted beforehand. We can do it. Sometimes that's possible. Sometimes it's not. A lot of the time in the contingent labour market, you'll need about a month availability within a month. If you're not available within a month, then you're not really a flexible resource to be easily deployed, and that's the whole point of contingent labour. So I would say keep an eye on your vetting. Sometimes I've seen people lose it just because their employers haven't taken the care to reinvigorate their vetting.
Mm.
A lot of employers will vet you if you ask them to. It's your responsibility, take care of it, and because it's really useful and vital for working within the secure market across police and also the defence market and a lot of central government.
Mm. Yeah, excellent. Okay, mate, thanks for that. That's really helpful. So in terms of people who may be a little unsure, whatever their length of service, but whether this might be the right career path for them, or whether, you know, you as an organization are right for them as well, you know, what sort of advice and guidance would you give them to finish this off?
If you're unsure, the only way to be a bit more sure about it is by talking to people like me who have experience of working with other people like you, and I can give you guidance in whatever way you need guidance, and generally that will be in the form of showing you what's out there, giving you the confidence to understand that you have value outside of the organization you're working within at the moment. And I can show you what kind of thing you could be doing, and I can tell you how much you could be paid. I have maybe work on for you. So speak to people like me. We're always keen to speak to new people. I'm always keen to speak to new people within the police. So I'll be all ears.
Brilliant. Mate, thanks so much for your time. As always, it's great catching up with you, and some amazing information there, and some really exciting opportunities as well. So, you know, really appreciate you having you in the Blue Light Leavers group in the academy as well. And so, yeah, really appreciate it, mate. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Andy. Great to be here. I'll look forward to the next one.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll catch up again soon.
All right. Cheers, Andy.
So I really hope that's given you some confidence that, you know, your skill set and the experience you've got, and particularly those soft skills, are really sought after by recruiters. And I'll put in the show notes ways to contact Lewis. And but he's such a great guy. So I've known him for a number of years now, and he's just brilliant to work with. So if you like what you've heard, then please leave a review. You can do that on Spotify and on Apple. And, you know, any information, there's lots of free stuff through the website and obviously through the Facebook group. So it's www.bluelightleavers.com. And the Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/Blue Light Leavers. It'd be great to see you there. Hope you're doing okay. Thanks, as always, for listening. And we'll catch up again soon. Take care. Bye for now.